Yep.
Okay.
What's up, Chaz? Bryson? Mr. Matthew Scott. I did confirm with Coach Bender he will be joining us.
Okay.
What's up, gentlemen?
There's Coach Bender.
How's it going?
Guys, populate. Guys, set your cameras up, hold them horizontal, and sit up straight.
Sound like a broken record there, Wetmore.
Okay? I like to say things once as long as they listen the first time.
Yes, Coach.
Hey, Coach Bender, how you doing?
Look at that Maryland jersey sitting up behind him. Isn't that pretty?
See, I thought it was Bellarmine. At least it's not Emmaus. There you go.
Yeah, that's a start. How's everybody doing?
Good, good. How you doing, Mike?
We're going to give everybody a minute or two to jump in here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's good to see all the faces here. Colin, do me a favor. Put on your camera. There we go. Thank you, Colin.
Set your camera up and sit up straight there, young man.
And Nolan and Lincoln do the same thing. Although Lincoln, it looks like you've got a dead dog on your screen.
My camera won't work. It just failed the start.
So again, we'll give folks another minute to join.
And I'm going to mute everybody, Kevin, except for the coaches and Coach Bender. And then if everybody can set their thing up to speaker view, that's in the top right. You click speaker view, and as the coaches are talking, it'll highlight them for you guys. Got some more guys jumping in here. Boy, oh boy, right on time you are. 15 minutes late. Ryan Bender, what's up, buddy?
I see the head of Johnny here. There we go.
You can see up Johnny's nose. Johnny, you got about 3 nose hairs in your left nostril.
Ouch.
I see some boogers too.
Oh, Matt, don't go there. We'll leave it to Matt.
There's Matt. There's always the line, and then Matt goes right over it.
Yep. Well, you should know how that feels.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I see you muted everybody. Rob, you want to get started?
Oh, guys, I'm just excited tonight to have Coach Bender joining us. As you guys know, he's the head coach of Parkland High School. He's a director of Headstrong. He's played for the University of Maryland, recently drafted into the MLL. He's looking forward to talking to you guys about his journey, about what lacrosse has done for him, and how it's emanated and permeated every part of his life. And then he's going to talk to you about what we need to be doing during this pandemic, during this quarantine, so we are not gathering dust on ourselves and our sticks. But after Kevin, do you have anything to say before we turn it over to the coach?
But yeah, thank you, Rob. Thank you, Rob. I similar to last week, guys. So as you may recall, we had a great opportunity to meet with Rob Pennell last week. This is the second session that we're trying to set up with coaches and players of prominence that again can ultimately instill some great information for you guys. We're going to be setting up more over the course of this next month. I've got some calls out to Kevin Castis over at Lehigh. I've got some calls out to some other coaches, from Lafayette, other places. So we will hopefully have somebody on the line with us next week as well. But, similar to last week, what we had asked you guys to do was think about some great questions you could ask of Coach Bender. So, Mike, obviously everybody knows you from Headstrong, and folks know you, in terms of being the head coach for the Parkland team. But before we actually get into that, I wanted to start with a couple of questions, maybe in terms of your youth playing experience. So, our understanding is, you obviously went to Emmaus, and was wondering, could you tell us a little bit about, when you started playing, which organizations you played with, if you played club, who were they with, and eventually what brought you to Bellarmine and then to Maryland. So, Coach Bender, you want to go?
Yeah, first off, thank you, coaches, for having me. This is a pretty awesome opportunity to see with you guys interact and see such a positive attendance from the youth guys. It's definitely a hard time, not having lacrosse here in the spring. So it's definitely an interesting time for really everyone all around the world. So thanks again for having me. But a little bit about myself. I started playing lacrosse not until like 5th or 6th grade. Started in the LMYA program, actually. Was playing football and baseball. And lacrosse was necessarily a newer sport, kind of transitioned. Actually, one year I played baseball and lacrosse the same season because didn't want to my dad didn't let me, commit full time to one thing yet. So I played a baseball game and then ran over to Quarry Fields and then played another lacrosse game until, my passion and love for lacrosse continued to grow. At that point, I was just an athlete with a stick in my hands. Started with defense, and relatively now probably a later start than what some of you guys had with a stick in your hands. You guys definitely have a huge advantage getting some more experience under your belt. But I had a great opportunity to have some awesome coaches teach me the basics and let my athleticism and creativity and kind of skill set develop underneath them, and that's a great thing about lacrosse. You can be unique and customize your game to really however your personality feels. Went to Emmaus, which is a crazy circumstance, but I'm an Emmaus graduate. Was actually now with all my free time, I was actually looking through some old newspaper articles, and Emmaus, we were a club sport my freshman year. We transitioned to a varsity sport my freshman year, and we had a great group, great class, similar to you guys, that played all the way up through together. Had some great chemistry, had some great coaches, and we created that momentum and that brotherhood through the high school, where we were actually, I think, 50-0 in the Lehigh Valley. We didn't lose a game in the Lehigh Valley all 4 years. Made it to the state playoffs, made it to the semifinals. So I had a lot of great memories with those guys. But like I said, it was something that started all the way in the youth through LMYA and, like you guys, SPYA. And then continued to play throughout college, played club, got recruited. A little bit of a crazy situation, don't want to go too in depth there, but my goal was to always play at the highest level, play Division I lacrosse. So I ended up committing to Towson first, and then decommitting, and then committing to Bellarmine. But all in all, my main goal is to compete at the highest level, and that for me, at that opportunity arose at Bellarmine, which is Division I school in Louisville, Kentucky. I did 2 years there and then transferred to the University of Maryland, where I finished my career and played 2 years there. Fortunate enough, while I was at University of Maryland, had a phenomenal coaching staff and opportunities, and finished my career with 2 Final Four appearances in the national championship in 2015. Which actually just aired on ESPN. So I was.
Well, yeah, I was saying we were texting each other when it was on. I think you probably had nightmares about Will Corrigan after those games.
I enjoyed watching the Hopkins game before that, before the Denver game. But it's pretty cool. I'm very fortunate to have those opportunities, and being a coach now and knowing the game, on a deeper level, watching back, even the 2015 national championship, there's so many things that you can nitpick and see it from a whole different angle. So it was obviously tough to lose in the national championship, but a lot of positives came from it, and it was definitely a learning experience. So
Great.
What club team did you play for, Coach?
there was actually only like 3 club teams in Philadelphia when I was coming up through high school. It was Headstrong, Dukes, and I believe LB3. I bounced around, ended up finishing with Dukes, where I played with Matt Rambo, Nico Amato, a handful of guys. But then at that point, there was only 2 or 3 Lehigh Valley guys that played club and made that commute to Philadelphia. But definitely fortunate to have those opportunities, and it's always been my passion to provide those same opportunities that I had back to the players of the Lehigh Valley. So
now, when you were at Emmaus, if I remember, you were playing LSM, right? And then did you play? Were you recruited as an LSM, or were you recruited more as a D midi? How did that work?
Yes, I played LSM really my entire career. I was, like I said, I was a football player, so coach just handed me a long stick and said, be the athlete and run around. And, my stick skills weren't the best, but develop them and play defense all the way up through high school. LSM, began to took face-offs, and really just enjoyed the game so much, was relentless on ground balls. In transition, I began to get more comfortable, so it was just natural. Enjoyed running a lot, which is strange. So I just that was definitely an advantage in my part. So got recruited as a defense LSM at Bellarmine. I started my freshman year at close defense, sophomore year as LSM, and then I transferred. Junior year, played LSM at Maryland behind Michael Earhart, who's actually the MVP of the World Games 2 years ago. And then my senior year, opportunity arose. One of our All-Americans got injured. Coach asked me to play short stick, something I've never done ever in my life. I said, whatever the team needs, and I learned it. I didn't keep a short stick out of my hands for like the next 6 months, took it to classes just to get comfortable with it. Still wasn't proficient with it all the way up through the national championship, but I knew the defense. It was something that the team needed, and they supported me and gave me the skills and resources around me, put me in a good position. So
awesome. So why don't we turn it over to the kids? I definitely have a slew of questions that I can ask here, Mike, so I could keep us occupied for an hour easily. But why don't we open it up the mics? So guys, if you have a question, unmute your line and go ahead and ask a question of Coach Bender.
Who's got a question first? All right, I'm calling on Bryson. Go ahead, Bryson.
What was the D1 practice like?
It's a great question. It's very hard, actually. You had to be on time. You had to prep. You had to. A lot of the time, there's 2 practices every single day. You worked out in the morning with the strength coach. You either did your stretches or a workout for the day with your position group. And then in the morning and the afternoon, you go to your classes. You do all that stuff, and you try to fit in some film. And then usually in the evening, there's a block of time that the coach blocks off. Usually do film work for about an hour, and then we hit the field with a practice plan and very strict timing and all that stuff for about 2 hours. And in those 2 hours, we're actually talking from my experience at Maryland. The practices were filmed, so the next day after we would review some drills and go through that stuff. But we definitely practiced the way we played, so fast, very competitive from the start. And something that I reiterate to the Parkland High School guys still that I got from college is keeping the practice plans very structured, whether it's just beginning with stick work or a stretch and then developing into, ground balls or small groups and then finishing with, a competition or a full field drill. I definitely think having some structure there is definitely a positive when it comes to developing. So does that help? Good answer.
Works for us.
It works for us. Yeah, exactly.
Who's next? Matt Kelly. Go ahead, buddy.
What is it like changing from deep hole to short stick?
That's a great question. So it's only about 3 feet difference. Obviously, on the defensive end, making sure that the schemes and everything is most important. And at that point, it really doesn't matter what kind of stick you have. As long as you know the schemes, you can recover. You play good one-on-one defense. You filter guys in the right directions and low percentage shots. Like I said, really doesn't matter what short stick or long stick that you have. Gameplay, there's a little bit different. When you do have a short stick and you're on the defensive end, once you start to play those more competitive games, like Notre Dame and North Carolina, they start to identify you and target you a little bit more just because you have the disadvantage of those 3 feet. So whether those are inverts or re-dodging you, it's definitely harder and almost makes you feel like you have a bullseye on your chest when you step onto the field. But something at Maryland that we did, not so much D middies, but T middies, which stands for transition middies, which is a little bit different to answer your question about defense and short stick. When I played short stick, my responsibility was to obviously play defense, but also transition the ball to the offensive end. So my shift or my role wasn't complete until that was complete. So whereas defense, I would just come off the field or, have limited responsibilities on that end.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Other questions, guys?
Christian, you got a question? No? Who's got a question, guys? I got 2 questions when the kids are done. Go ahead, Johnny.
Hey, Coach Mike, what is it like to be a Parkland High School head coach and a professional player?
Thank you for the question, Johnny. It's actually been an absolute pleasure coaching for Parkland. I never thought I would have the opportunity to. Obviously, being a Emmaus graduate, it was definitely tough and switching colors and my alma mater. But I enjoy it. I most importantly enjoy the culture that we're creating, the players and the families and the resources that the school has. Definitely plays in our benefit. So super stoked for what's ahead. We've already kind of had a great start, and we're really building something special. So I'm definitely excited to see you guys in the next couple of years. It's definitely hard though, right? When you get to high school, it's almost like a full-time job. There's a lot of practices. There's a lot of film. There's 3 or 4 games a week. So I know coaches are preparing you the best they can for that. And then for being a professional, I'll answer that question in like 2 or 3 months. Hopefully we have an MLL season. I'm training the best I can, keeping a stick in my hand, keeping my conditioning up. So I'll get back to you on that.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Who else, guys?
One related question while we're trying to cultivate some additional questions from the kids. Can you talk a little bit about the process to getting drafted for the MLL? Because it's not just one of those things where you just put your hand up and say, draft me. You have to actually go through a process to be selected for the MLL. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and what it was like to be drafted that day?
Yeah, absolutely. So it came to a little bit of a shock, obviously, because I graduated 5 years ago. So I'll probably be one of the older guys on the team, not so much the oldest, but probably in the middle of the level, because a lot of the guys play 1 or 2 years after they graduate. So every year I put my name in a player pool, and that gives you eligibility for the supplemental draft, which I was selected in. And I'm looking forward to a lot of those guys that are still in the MLL I played with in college. So I'm looking forward to competing with them again. And I'm just doing a lot of reading, a lot of FaceTimes and stuff with coaches, trying to figure out, making sure that we're on the game plan, and obviously making sure that when we get the green light from the MLL that we're able to go. We're planning to have training camp here in like 2 or 3 weeks. So obviously that's been pushed back, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but.
No, it did. So, all right. So guys, I bought you some time. Now a bunch of you guys should have some additional questions here. So any other kids? I see Matt Scott's hand going up. Why don't you go ahead, Matt Scott?
Have any like role models when you were like younger?
Say it a little louder, Matt.
Wow,
Do
good
you
question.
have any role models when you were younger?
Yeah, I had a handful of people that I looked up to, whether they were professional athletes or family members. Definitely a lot of positive influences in my life when I was younger, and I tried to, associate with those guys as much as possible. One of my favorite players growing up was his name is Joel White. He's an LSM for Syracuse. Plays for Team USA, so I always try to model my game the best I could around his. So I was one of the guys I always looked up to. And then I actually did karate sensei. So I had my sensei that I looked up to as well. Taught me a lot of life lessons that I still have today. And then, my family members, I have an older sister that I looked up to and was a positive role model, as well as, my uncle and my dad and a few other people. But
Great.
Who's next? Anybody else? I have 2 questions for you, Coach. The first one, you hear constantly how lacrosse is the fastest growing sport in America. Having grown up in Bethlehem, they didn't have lacrosse until at the high school level until 3-4 years ago. How much has the game changed from when you grew up playing it to what you see the youth kids playing today? How do you see that different?
yeah, it's a good question. Obviously the game, the X's and O's are still similar. Still a few adjustments as the rules continue to change. But the game's the game. The thing that I've noticed the most is really the athletes that are playing it. I think, lacrosse is a phenomenal sport, and I think it's starting to attract a lot higher talent of an athlete, whether they were playing football or basketball or really just didn't have access to lacrosse. So I think the athletes that are playing it has really improved. And I also think, guys like myself that, have experiences elsewhere that are bringing it back to the Lehigh Valley, whether it's from coaching or, having a local club or, having more resources, definitely I think has helped when it comes to, just having access to improving, whether you're a very high level player or you're a beginner player. I think the Lehigh Valley has tremendous opportunities, way more than we had before. And it's awesome to see kind of the wave start to come back in with college guys that, like I said, have graduated and are coming back to support and also integrate back in and give back to the sport.
That's great. That kind of leads into my next question. And so we have kind of a good mix. As you probably heard, we have over 40 kids on this 5-6 team with a mix of kids that have been playing for 7 years and kids that have been playing for 7 weeks. And I wanted to talk to you and get your thoughts on the importance of club play when you're looking for long-term success in the game. In what I've seen, and you've coached at multiple high schools now, kids that really hope to play at the high school level, how many of those kids are playing at the high school level that have not dove into the club play? Is it how important is that club play to these kids? Because we have kids in this group right now that have played a lot of club, and we have other kids that have never stepped foot on a lacrosse field outside of March to June. So if you could talk about that for a minute, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably a loaded question, but I appreciate it. The more you can keep your stick in your hands, obviously, the better. Playing club gives you, additional resources, coaches, and really just more playing. For youth players, the way you really get better is experience. So the more you play, the more you can get better. In my opinion, the majority of the guys at the high school level do play club. And just being at Parkland, there's definitely a higher level of expectations, right? So a lot of those guys have been playing club, and a lot of the younger guys that are coming up do. But with that being said, it's definitely, and being both sides, being a club director and not, it's definitely something that's not mandatory. There's kids that mature later. There's kids that come on and start the sport later, that can fit into a role that the team needs, whereas, a player that started really young and, is starting to get burned out. So there's definitely two sides of it. But from my experience, the majority of our players at Parkland do play club, and you can definitely tell, the skill levels that do versus the ones that don't.
Awesome. Thanks. Coach Kevin, back to you.
So while the kids are still thinking about some additional questions to ask Coach Bender, I was curious, what are some of the things you're doing with your team right now, Coach, to keep the Parkland varsity and JV teams engaged and staying in shape and working out, between now and the time that we're going to be able to get back on the field?
Yeah, so obviously it's a pretty uneasy time. So we continue to Zoom with them. We Zoomed with the seniors. We try to just stay in as constant contact with them, especially in the beginning, as a lot of it was unknown. So trying to be that figurehead and give them, some promise and some direction was definitely tough. But just keeping in constant communication. To be honest, we've really stepped away the last 2 or 3 weeks to give them some time off, spend some time with their family, and I know they're definitely keeping a stick in their hands. And I know this time off will definitely benefit them. Like I said, a lot of those guys are playing club, so they'll be playing soon enough. But we do have huddle, so there's film that is available for those guys to watch and to make highlight films on their time off. But other than that, the last week or two, I've really been focusing on our seniors and making sure that they get the recognition that they deserve. Whether that's doing a video for them or just reaching out or shooting them a text and making sure, that we're thinking about them and we support them. And like I said, showing them the respect and the recognition that they deserve. A lot of hard work and for everyone on our team was put in the off season for this spring season. So
right.
It's definitely tough. Definitely tough. It's tough for all of us, but we're still working on it. Still have my playbook out. Still, adjusting a few things here and there. Looking at how the roster is going to shape up for next year. Looking about how, who needs to put in some work in the off season and what our plan is and how we're going to approach the winter season and what events we're going to do and what team building events that we're going to do. And, all these guys, have spent so much time with each other the last couple springs. So it's definitely an uneasy feeling not being around each other, but I think the time off is also needed.
Healthy. Yeah. You need to recoup.
Yeah.
Because of the, back when you were being recruited in high school, I would imagine, again, they could start recruiting you in 8th grade. things changed over the last couple of years, and now people can only recruit starting September 1st of your junior year. I was curious, what kind of feedback are you getting from your players around that recruitment window and the impact that this most recent situation is going to have actually on their recruitment or their ability to be considered by coaches? What kind of messaging are you giving to those players? What kind of outreach are you doing perhaps to some other coaches? Can you tell us a little bit about kind of the recruiting trail at the moment?
Hey, Kevin, that's a great question, especially with Coach Lucas on the line here as a junior who missed his season.
Well, he still needs to start that charity we talked about, and I know he can hear me right now. But anyways.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a sticky situation, and I can give you my opinion on a handful of things. When I was going through the recruiting process, 8th graders were getting recruited and handpicked, and it was definitely benefited a very small percentage of the lacrosse community, and made it very political. Talking with college coaches now, I think the initial reaction was, they didn't like it. It was uncomfortable. It was new. It's going to make things harder, and it's definitely harder now. But I think in the long term, it's definitely going to make things a lot more streamlined and a lot more fair. There's still regulations like military academies can still recruit earlier and all that stuff. Yeah. But it's a lot more fair, and it keeps it a lot less political. When I was at Maryland, I was 24 years old, maybe 23, and there was 8th graders coming in for official visits, and it just blew my mind. Right, there's so much development that needs to be made, and because of that, you're going to see a lot more of transfers or decommits because of it. I know there's still a couple guys that committed when they were in 8th grade that are still going through that process right now, and I think it definitely alleviates a lot of things when you're. I mean, my opinion is, when you're that young, you're picking your favorite team or your favorite colors or your favorite uniforms, or you have no idea what your future holds as in regards to majors, and if that coach is going to be there, or what the future plans are for athletics for that university. And like I said, for the small percentage, it benefited them. They can get in, they can get locked in, but at that same point, there's guys working double as hard where they're committed. So, and then you also have to take into account the late bloomers, right? Juniors, seniors that start to develop or came to the sport late, that might end up being a better athlete than those guys that committed earlier on, that are still learning and developing from that sport. So, I mean, as of recent, the college coaches that I've talked to is all positive. It does make for a tougher couple of weeks when that September 1st thing hits, because everyone kind of has their board, and a lot of guys you're still in communication with those guys and their club coaches, so there's still ways around it. But there's still a lot of unknown. But NCAA football does it, and I definitely think it's the right decision long term.
Great. So, other questions, guys?
Coach Chris.
Yes. Hey, Coach Bender, how are you?
How's it going?
It's going. I preach this every week to the boys, academics. How do you – okay, well, I'll take you into two different forms, what we're dealing with now and under normal circumstances. How do you keep your team focused on academics outside of the game?
During just like the regular school year, during the spring school year, or just in general?
Well, kind of under normal circumstances, and then under these circumstances. How do you keep these kids focused on academics?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that's a lot bigger than lacrosse or sports, right? You can't really go anywhere without being educated, whether it's going to college or really in life. And that's kind of the things that you kind of take a step back and really focus on. And that's what I try to relate to our players at the high school level. And I definitely try and hold them accountable. I know we have a couple study hall sessions, and I'm in constant communication with their counselor.
Okay.
When falls underneath a line and what have you, or needs support or needs help, whether it's or counseling or tutors or something like that. So we're able to provide that stuff, which is a great access. But then there's also the contrary to that is when you aren't up to your grades, or you fall short in one class, or you don't take school seriously, we don't let you play. There's guys that are academically ineligible, whether it's from a coaching standpoint, with our guidelines. And if we think that you're not taking school seriously or what have you, we'll tell you can't play this game. And there's also the school district that says, you need to be passing a certain amount of courses, or you physically can't play, which passes down to me. And that puts our team in an unfortunate situation. So my goal, obviously, is to win games and to make for a positive experience, but to also set up these guys for life after lacrosse. So making sure that academics are important, and we're making sure that they're on top of it is definitely a key aspect. But during these times, I mean, we're fortunate to have Coach Andrews, who's actually a gym teacher at the high school. So he keeps us up to date, making sure all the guys are doing their stuff, and
Nice.
Can give them some resources if they don't have it, or need help, or if someone's struggling, he kind of communicates that to me, and we reach out and share resources together. But a lot of the stuff's online, so it's you got to trust the guys, and if they don't take care of business off the field, those repercussions will come on the field. So
correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
So maybe one last question, before we wrap it up. There's a couple of guys here whose parents have been reaching out regarding club lacrosse for the summer. So just wanted to see, with the Headstrong organization, do you still have any available slots for the 2026 or for the 2027 teams?
Good question. Yeah. As a matter of fact, we do. If you're interested, reach out to us, and we'll talk, and I'll talk to you guys about getting an evaluation or getting some feedback on them. But we would love to have you. And the club season, as of right now, is still going on. So obviously you missed the spring, so it's an awesome opportunity to get a stick in your hands and play with a lot of the guys that I see on here. So it's only a positive. If you have any questions, yeah, absolutely feel free to reach out. Like I said, the more opportunities to play, the better. So yeah.
Perfect.
Coach, Kevin, can you send out contact information in your next communication for Coach Bender and his organization?
Well, we could do that, or Coach Bender, if you wanted to, people can just reach out to me directly, and then I'll just refer them directly to you. That way we can see which kids are interested in playing club that you're going to be looking for feedback on, and so forth. That way, again, we give you our perspective while they're at the same time reaching out to you for potential tryouts and so forth. What would be your preference here, Mike?
They're welcome to reach out to me, or if you just share me their information, and I'll be sure to follow up.
All right. So guys, we'll send an email out after today's call. I think Rob's been recording this anyways, and we'll be posting it on YouTube. So maybe Rob, since you're going to be sending out that link, do you want to just send a note to everybody and include Mike's contact information in that?
I can do that.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions that I came prepared with.
Oh boy. I wasn't expecting this. Okay.
I gotta go. My wife's calling.
All right, so I'm gonna call out a couple of these guys. So I want to hear how last week's Zoom session went with Rob Pennell. What you guys learned from that. Brian Bender, is it?
Yep.
That question goes out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the question again?
What did you learn? How was it?
Yeah, it was good. We learned a lot about him.
What were some of the
many words? You want to know what you learned, Ryan?
Yeah. So Ryan, what were some of the key messages that you learned from Rob last week?
To always keep going and keep working out and
Okay.
What college did he play for?
I don't know.
Oh, right.
Oh boy.
Help him out, Lucas.
Easy listeners. We got listeners here.
So
Got it.
There we go. So, guys, remember, he was the 2013 Twarton Award winner. He played at Cornell from 2009 to 2013. Actually threw a loophole for that 5th year of eligibility, by the way. But 4th all-time leading scorer at Cornell. Remember, these are the things we talked about, guys. So go ahead, pick on some other guys here, Coach.
All right. Charlie or Colin, tell me some defensive drills that you guys have been working on.
Oh boy.
So I know Charlie's been playing a lot of stick work in the backyard. So, there's Colin's video. It was frozen there for a moment. Colin, why don't you go ahead and start? Because I know you've got a goal in your backyard. What kind of stuff you working on?
Wall ball and shooting.
Okay.
That's it.
Those are defensive drills. Charlie.
How about you, Charlie?
Same as Connor. Every once in a while, I play with my little brother. Play against my little brother.
All right. Well, I gotta drop that video that I talked about last week here, guys. So I've got a 28-minute video. I'm not sure you guys want to watch a full 28 minutes of it, but a whole host of drills you can be doing in your backyards, with your parents, whether they play lacrosse or not. So again, I'll drop that this coming week here, guys, and hopefully at least on the defensive side or stickwork side, you guys have a couple additional things you can work on. But again, you got to have a stick in your hand here, guys. And Matt Kelly, stop playing basketball. So, Coach Bender, you ought to just call on my kid just for the sake of it.
All right, last question, Ethan. What stick you been playing with during this quarantine?
I've been playing with both.
Both, nice.
Just cradling and throwing it anywhere and just running to get it.
Nice. You throw it with one stick and then go get it with the other stick?
No.
No?
Oh, it's good that, again, you're keeping both sticks in your hand because, again, he's one of those athletes that can play a variety of different positions.
Last question. Is anyone practicing their face-offs so they can beat Bailey?
Absolutely. I know Matt's doing it with his long pole.
I practice. Practice.
Anybody else? There are other face-off guys that on here, right?
Chase isn't on here. Bailey's working
he's
just
not.
to be able to beat Chase.
Yeah. No Chase is in here. No Luke.
Chase
I
is
think
Bailey's
I think
nemesis.
Rob's working out too, just to beat Bailey.
I'm working out to beat Bailey.
Hey guys, Coach, do you want to call anybody out?
That's it. That's all I got.
Hey guys, so I sat down real quick. I just want to add something before we let you guys go tonight. Obviously, we have more time to catch up on movies and film. And one of the things that Rob Pinnell talked about last week, and it echoed things that we've been talking about, is the importance of watching lacrosse. Watching lacrosse as much as you can. Every game you could possibly imagine is out there on YouTube. Every game you could possibly imagine. You can find it somewhere in today's day and age of technology. But me and the family, we sat down and watched a film just the other night, and it was so much better and so much more.
Medicine Game?
Yeah, it was amazing. So
That's a good guess.
It's on Amazon, guys. Amazon. It's called The Medicine Game. It's about the Thompson brothers, the Thompson family, and it just was phenomenal. And then if immediately following that game or that video, that movie, which is a true story of their life, and the Thompson brothers, if you, Coach Bender, I'm sure will attest this, are some of the greatest lacrosse players to ever touch a field. And the fact that the brothers can all play is just mind-boggling. All four are currently in the NLL, 3 of them on one team. Their
2 of them won the Twarton.
On this one team. What's that, Kevin?
I was saying 2 of them won the Twarton, and one of them actually won the Twarton 2 years in a row.
Right, but what I thought was a really neat lesson about that was the importance of education. As good a lacrosse players these guys were, they struggled to get to their school. The oldest 2 brothers really had issues getting into college, and one even finishing. So I highly recommend you guys watch The Medicine Game. And then what we did immediately following that was we watched a YouTube video called The Greatest Lacrosse Game Ever, which was the game. Coach Bender, which game am I referring to? Do you know?
I do not know.
It was the game between Albany and Notre Dame, and there were actually 3 Thompsons, 2 brothers and a cousin on that Albany team at the same time when they went up against Notre Dame, and it was a back and forth game. So you have 2 hours to kill, guys, because that YouTube video is only 12 minutes long. Watch the medicine game, and then watch the greatest lacrosse game ever on YouTube. It'll be well worth your time. And if you don't come out of that wanting to grab your stick and get in the backyard and work, you were sleeping during the movie, honestly. So that's all I have for you guys today. You all know what I say every day.
Oh,
The
yeah.
stick should not be gathering any dust. Go ahead, Coach.
Well, at least you're not talking about personal hygiene again. So
No, not today. Not today. I can smell some of these kids right through the camera, though.
Yeah, well, some of them haven't showered in 2 months, but
Especially that Matt Kelly kid.
so Coach Bender, on behalf of the team, again, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. This is again another great opportunity. Within the Lehigh Valley, Mike, Coach Bender is one of the preeminent guys. You got to know if you're thinking about playing club, he's also a guy you got to know. So it was a great opportunity for us to have a great coach and a great player, a local product here for you guys to ask some questions to. And again, we're going to continue to invite more coaches and players as we continue to get through the month of May. But again, Rob will send out a copy of this video tomorrow. We'll send out a copy, or I should say, of Coach Bender's contact information. So if you guys aren't playing club now and you're looking to get in and start playing club, and I know there's a couple of you guys here, the moment we brought this up, your eyes kind of raised. So Ian, make sure you tell Mr. Wilson about this. Guys, there's an opportunity to play club in the Lehigh Valley. Headstrong is a great organization to be a part of. It's got a great vision and really purpose in terms of as an organization with cancer research and support for families going through difficult situations. So again, if you're looking for an opportunity, it's a great one in your backyard that you should be looking at. So with that, Coach Bender, thank you very much again. Guys, enjoy your week. Have a great week. Do your homework. And we'll see you guys again soon.
Thanks, Coach Bender.
Thanks, guys.
Bye,
Thanks, guys.
everyone. Adios. Adios. Bye.
Be safe, guys. Take care of your families.
Go get your bounces in.
I got
Bunch of goofballs.